This week, I accidentally ended up streaming for 2 days straight with Hasan Abi in Chongqing, China. Yes, that Hasan Abi. And somehow, it ended up being one of the coolest experiences that I've had while living in China. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, which I know a lot of you are, then welcome to you as well. I know a lot of you found me from Hasan's IRL streams in China, and since then we've been asked so many questions across platforms like how were you guys invited in the first place, what was it like behind the scenes, how was it live streaming in general, how was Hasan in person? So today I'm going to walk you through the whole experience, what surprised us, what we learned, and how it feels to go live in front of tens and thousands of people for the first time ever. Okay, so here's how it all started. So somebody reached out to Lulu, my girlfriend, through WeChat and asked us if we were interested in collaborating or streaming with Hasan during his trip in China, specifically in Chongqing. At first, I was like really confused. I was like, you mean like Hasan Abi, Hasan Piker? And I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely thought it was like a prank, or I thought it was like some sort of a scam. It was just too good to be true, seriously. You know, on Douyin, we have about 473,000 followers, which is actually a fair amount. But here on YouTube, I only had something like 2,400 subscribers, and on my Instagram, 400 at the time. So when they reached out to us, I was like, are you sure they meant to reach out to us? But they actually clarified that they were indeed fans of Lulu and I's content on Douyin. So I think that is honestly a big reason why they reached out to us, and they thought that we would fit the part for Hasan's Chongqing segment of their China IRL streams. But in the end, we got the confidence that we needed to figure out that this indeed was not a scam. We were super excited, like totally excited. Quite nervous leading up to it, to be honest. But yeah, the excitement was just like through the roof. We just could not believe it. So the funniest part about all this is we've actually never live streamed before ever. We had talked about doing it for like maybe well over a year now, but we never actually ended up doing it. So our first live stream experience ever ended up being with Hasan on his stream, along with his friends Will, Caroline, and Austin as well. And this was in front of like tens and thousands of people watching live. So, you know, the nerves were definitely there. But honestly, once the live stream actually started, and after Lulu and I, we introduced ourselves, things really started to calm down. Like we really started to feel more and more comfortable. And honestly, everybody was so welcoming and nice. Like it kind of just made it easy for us to get comfortable. And, you know, from my first time and Lulu's first time doing IRL streaming, honestly, it's like you just get on a train that's moving and like there's nothing you can do about it. Like the train's moving, you just got to go with the flow. Okay, so day one of Hasan's stream in Chongqing, China. It was basically like a full, I guess you could say like a full tour of Chongqing, or at least a full tour of, you know, some of the more touristy areas of Chongqing. Hey guys, camera from the future here. One thing I forgot to mention when recording this video was the itinerary for Hasan and his crew's Chongqing trip wasn't something that was set by Lulu and I. But on day one of their trip in Chongqing, we were actually allowed to have a little bit of freedom of what we wanted to show them, but specifically within the Jiafeng Bay area. So I just wanted to clarify that just in case you guys were wondering about, you know, how this itinerary came to be. Anyways, back to the video. So we walked around the streets, specifically in Jiafeng Bay area, which is like the center of Chongqing. We got Hasan and gang to try some of our favorite food in that area. It's not really known for food, like the specific area, but there are some gems in there. So we got him to try my personal favorite steamed buns, or baozi.
Oh my god! Yeah. Oh my god!
It's hot.
Everybody loved those, so I was super happy about that. We also got them to try some more spicy dishes like sour noodles. What else did we do? We also learned some Chongqing dialect along the way.
Lauber. When we say
and yeah, overall just kind of gave like the tour of that area. But specifically on the note of teaching dialect, I would say in general, what really surprised me is genuinely how much they were interested in just like, I don't know how to say this, I guess just like the culture in general, I guess you could say. They were so curious about the language, so curious about the history, so curious about like, you know, why is this like this or why is that like that? Genuine curiosity. And it didn't feel like it was for show, like they really, really wanted to know. And it also seemed like everyone in Hasan's group already had like a bit of a foundation. So they've definitely done their research before. So I thought that was really, maybe not surprising, but I don't know. I think it was just really cool, to be honest. So the definite highlight of day one, after we kind of did the full tour, we did the cable car and whatnot, was ending off the stream with Wing Chun. I think that's how you say it. We did that on Will's stream with the whole group, and that was a crazy experience. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Ip Man, but essentially that's the style of martial arts that we learned at the end of the stream there. The Wing Chun was pretty difficult, to be honest, but in the end, we actually all ended up getting it, and I would say we were all quite in sync the whole time. Master, or Shifu, he actually seemed pretty surprised, I think, with how well we all got it. So I think that speaks to his ability as a master. But yeah, that was maybe one of my favorite parts of, honestly, both days for sure. But I do have another favorite that I'm going to mention in a little bit here. Okay, so day number 2 ended up being quite different from day number 1. We still did like, a couple, I guess you could say, like touristy things, but not really. We started the day with making wontons at a local small low-key restaurant. For this part, I didn't end up being on camera too much, which is obviously fine. It's not my stream, because it was just so chaotic. It was constantly going back and forth between the front of the shop where Hasan was greeting customers and trying to bring them in, while Will and everybody else is in the back trying to get the wontons all prepared. But I have to say, overall, for that stream, I have to give Will a huge shout out because he was the MVP.
I need a Chinese cigarette.
He was behind that counter just slaying the wontons. And he did a good job too. I could tell the aunties running the restaurant were so impressed. So after we made the wontons, we all shared a delicious meal together. We learned a little bit more Chongqing dialect. And then I believe after that we went to a couple more touristy areas. So it's like that. God, I can't even remember what it's called. It's where you're kind of walking on ground level, then you look down and you see another ground level. That kind of famous area, also in around Jiafan Bay, I believe. And then from there, we took the subway to the famous Lidzba station. Had a view of the subway going into the building there. And then from there, we went to another district to learn about traditional Chinese medicine. So yeah, absolutely jam-packed day, but that was not all. So we ended off the day by going to one of the famous hot pot restaurants in Chongqing, where you have a beautiful view of the mountain. It was nighttime when we went there, so we didn't really see it. Also, it was really cold, so we decided to stay inside. But this ended up being my favorite part of the entire 2 days, or the 2 streams, because I think, just hot pot, it really signifies what Chongqing is all about. People coming together over food, having drinks, loosening up, and just really having a great time. It was so interesting to see everybody try hot pot, see everybody's spice tolerances, but most of all, my favorite was actually teaching them how to play a Chongqing drinking game, which is called Lulu and I.
Side 2, 4.
But anyways, you can catch that on Caroline's stream, I believe, Caroline Kwan. I'm also going to share some highlights of that on my Instagram and YouTube here as well. But yeah, honestly, by the end of day 2, and after having hot pot and a couple drinks, it really just felt like hanging out with a bunch of friends. It was just really cool and so surreal to be involved in something like this. Even just talking about it now, I just can't even believe it even happened at all. Okay, so here's the part that a lot of people have asked about, and that is, what is Hasan like in person? And I have to say, honestly, he is so damn nice. Honestly, he is a really nice guy. He is super personable, really friendly. Despite all the chaos and stuff going on, he was still, there to, I know it's not his job to, but there to kind of keep us comfortable, I guess, ask us questions, get us involved, and kind of, not shy away from interacting with us. He really wanted to get us involved in this experience as well, which we really appreciated. Also, I have to shout out his ability to learn Chongqing dialect. Honestly, he caught on so fast. Not just him, but the whole group. I know online, Hasan has a bit of this intense, controversial persona, you could say, but in person, he was very warm, very friendly, very curious. And yeah, by the end, like I said, it just felt like hanging out with a friend. And again, he really made everybody feel so included. Not just him, but the whole group. Like everybody just made everyone feel included. Everybody was involved. Everybody was extremely respectful, and you could tell everybody genuinely was happy to be there and had a real interest in traveling in China and just Chinese culture in general. But yeah, by the end of the 2 streams, honestly, like we just learned so much. Like it's still mind blown to think about how much we learned from, just those 2 days. Things such as how quickly you need to react on camera, how to keep the energy up, how to keep things entertaining, how important chemistry is, how much, I guess as it not being our stream, how much, is overstepping our boundary, how much, should we, be on camera, how much should we get involved, do we wait for somebody to ask us a question, or do we just kind of just go for it, all that type of stuff. And, just kind of really build in, I guess you could say, like an intuition, just being live on camera. Another thing I found really cool overall is just how much the chat really influences the overall stream. Like there was always engagement with the chat. Chat always had like questions and recommendations and whatnot. And, everyone's always reacting. Everyone's kind of reading through the comments as we're live streaming. So there's a lot of multitasking going on as well. But it was so cool to see how engaged, chat was the whole entire time. And I really have to give a shout out to both chats on Twitch and on Bilibili. Everybody was so kind. Like, of course, it's hard to read all the comments, but I went through and I read a lot of them, and everybody was so kind towards Lulu and I. And yeah, it was a pleasant surprise, like online and social media can be scary, like being in front of all those people for the first time simultaneously. I didn't know what to expect. Like I didn't know if people would be harsh or not, but overall everybody was really nice. So shout out to chat. Thank you guys so much. And of course, thank you everyone who followed me here on YouTube or Instagram from the streams as well. This whole experience, honestly, it was just amazing. Like it was so great to have such a unique cultural exchange. There's definitely big differences between, America, where Hasan and his friends are coming from, and China. But just the simple interest in another culture just really brings people together. This curiosity and this willingness to learn, it just brings like-minded people together just to experience something, I don't know, something so beautiful together. So in the end, we made real friends, we had real moments, and I just want to thank Hasan and his team for trusting us to be involved in this. And for making this such an unforgettable experience. In the end, Lulu and I were so happy to represent Chongqing. We absolutely love the city, and I hope that Hasan and his friends feel the same way after their trip here. And hopefully it's also sparked some curiosity in all of you to eventually make a trip out here. So that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I just want to thank you all once again for subscribing here to my channel, especially those who came here from Hasan's streams. It really means a lot. It really means a lot. I'm trying to grow this channel. It's not always the easiest, but I really want to do some big things here. So thank you guys for being a part of that. I have so many more videos planned, lifestyle, travel, food, all of the above. So if you want to stick around, I would love to have you here. And with that being said, as always, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.